Grace.
And I'm Piper.
And this is the Unveiling Podcast with Grace and Piper,
where we tackle controversial topics through holistic, biblical, and unfiltered conversation.
Let's dive into the episode. Three, 2, 1.
That was perfect.
That was so good.
We're synced.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
We are.
This is I feel like this is our first official video.
We're legit.
Not official episode, because we had Morgan on last episode,
Yes.
which everyone needs to check out
So
if you haven't
good.
seen it yet. But this is our first official, we're playing with video and having fun. So I'm excited.
Yeah. You can pull your mic back a little bit. Just a little bit.
Right there?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh my god, I almost spilled the
Don't
wine.
do it again.
Almost spilled the wine again. Okay.
All right.
That would have been terrible.
Hello, everyone.
Hi everybody. Welcome.
Yeah, it's going to be hard not to stare at the camera.
It is. We're going to try to do better, though. I think it'll be easier just looking at each other because we're not
Yeah.
watching someone else on a screen.
That's true.
But welcome, everybody,
Yes, welcome.
to the Unveiling Podcast. I'm Piper.
And I'm Grace.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited to be here.
You might be sitting here and looking at the title and thinking, hey, what happened to the pro-life versus pro-choice episode?
Yes.
And I will put it on me. So Piper is very well-versed and wise when it comes to pro-life.
Oh,
and
well.
you are. You're very well.
It's my job.
Yeah,
so.
it's your job. But I think it's also you have a heart for it. And
I get very heated.
Yeah.
I try to be
In a good way, though.
I hope
You're very
I'm
passionate.
Kind. You can call me
are.
out if I'm not, but I try to be kind because I know that it is a very complicated, convoluted issue. But
Yeah.
it is so. I told Grace, I was like, I think we need to table this until we both have kind of sat down and walked through it fully, because it's such an important conversation. I really don't want to mess it
I'm
up.
really not educated in it at all. I think the only experience I
It's so
have
normalized
is
now.
Yes, and when I got pregnant, it was really scary for me, and my first thought was abortion, to be honest, and that's the only experience I have of it. Before I just felt called to trust in the Lord with my pregnancy, but yeah, I know nothing about it other than some of the videos you've sent me on it, which are rough. It's a lot to take in. So I definitely wanted to take a couple more weeks to pray over it and do my own research and make sure that my opinion that I state is what God calls me into. Are you trying to reach for chocolate?
It's on the floor. I knocked it over. It's on the floor.
It's okay.
Brief pause. Oh my god, thank you.
Yes.
Ooh, that's rough.
So we're here with a different topic.
We are. We are here tonight with, I would say it's equally controversial, but it's not nearly as heavy or important, I would say.
Yeah.
It's the topic of abortion.
I think it's definitely one where, well, one, it's not a heaven or hell issue, but two, it's kind of personal taste and what you feel comfortable with, but we kind of wanted to get on this topic of hospital birth versus natural birth, just because today it's very crunchy where it's like everyone should have a home birth and should be all natural. You don't need to do drugs, and sometimes I get the meaning behind it, but then I definitely think, especially around some of the moms I was around during my pregnancy, it can be taken overboard, and you can feel really, I don't know the word, but it feels demeaning if you choose a hospital birth, and like you're doing something wrong even if it's not your choice. So we just kind of want to dive into that, and also like the breast is best belief, because I don't think that's wrong, but we're just going to get into our thoughts on that too.
Right.
So
Yeah. So we're kind of going to start out with just talking about how everybody has different birth experiences and they're all unique. So like what's right for one person might not be right for a different person.
yeah.
And that has a lot of different factors, I think. But I know a lot of people who've done home births and they've gone great, and I think that's wonderful and awesome. And I might do a home birth one day. I don't know. Who knows? My birth experience was so rough. I don't know if I'll do a home birth after that, but we'll see. But some people, I know a lot of people who've done hospital births too. I think there's both. I think me personally, when I was kind of playing with the idea of doing a home birth, I wasn't sure if I was going to do a home or hospital birth. I had a few different people. Some people were really like, I think that'd be really awesome to do like a home birth, and like I think that's what you need to do, and like that's so so much better for you and like your baby and all that stuff. And then I had the opposite spectrum where I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about a home birth, like maybe. And someone was like, I just don't see why you would ever take that risk, and like why you would possibly put yourself in harm and like your baby in harm. And so there's people just have opinions, man.
Yeah, people are just opinionated. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I mean, in case you don't,
why.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. I think whatever we choose to do, if it goes really well for us, we have the mindset of like, oh, that's what you should do always, you know? Like, even sometimes with stuff in motherhood, I know I've been really like, oh, everybody needs to sleep train because it works so well for Ruth. Like, and if you just do it right, it works for everybody. But then I've seen other moms, and it's like, we've done it pretty hard and like tried everything, and it's just not working for us the way it worked for me. And so yeah, I think sometimes when we see something work really well, we're just like, oh, everybody should experience this because it's so good and it felt great, and I felt confident in my choices, and everyone should feel confident in their choices. And I think sometimes you get so distracted by that of like, everyone should do this, and you over preach it, and then it becomes a little overdone, and people get overwhelmed or scared to say, oh, actually I'm choosing to do this instead. And if you don't know, there's typically a few options. So there's hospital birth, there's home birth, or there's birth centers. Birth centers is kind of a good mix between the two, where you have a midwife and everyone with you, nurses. You have a bed. It's not in your home, obviously, but you also have the option of like tub, and to do like more holistic practices. And there are some medication options, although you don't have...
They're more limited.
Yes. Yeah. It's not... why am I not... I always forget the name of the drug. Not Pitocin.
Oh, like
No. What's the thing, Piper?
Oh, the epidural.
Yeah. Thank you. Wow.
No, it's okay.
You don't have the option for epidural typically, and then there's no Pitocin. So...
And they typically are not... I don't know if this is every birth center, but at least from what I've heard, there's typically not... If something were to go wrong, they are not necessarily trained in emergency services.
You're sent to a hospital after that point. Yes. So that's where, like, if you're interested in natural birth, it's a good start because you still have the safety of nurses and everyone with you. Whereas home birth, it's just, unless you hire a midwife, it's just kind of like you're rocking it on your own, and you're just kind of doing it by yourself. Which sounds intense to me.
Oh,
I think I could do that.
Well, you watch these videos and you're so inspired on Instagram, and I think it's incredible. Yeah. I think women are amazing. At least after my birth, I cannot imagine not having someone there to help me, because I'm not mentally there. Like, you're not mentally there. You're not physically there.
Well, and I don't know if it's different with the second birth, but husbands also don't know what they're doing at all. So, like, the nurses had to tell my husband what to do. Like, they had to tell him, okay, hold her leg and you got to keep it up or keep it up higher. You know, like, they don't know what they're doing. And they're so focused on, oh my gosh, my wife is pushing a baby out, or my partner is pushing a baby out right now. Like, you know, so I think it's hard for them to even think, oh, maybe we should move her into a different position or help her focus on her breathing more, not focus on the pain or, you know, whatever is going on. So even for my hospital birth, I'm high risk. So I had 10 different doctors. We have a student medical center that I gave birth acts. That's where they have their high risk doctors. So I had several different nurses in my room with me. I had students in my room. Have I told you the Timothy Chalamet nurse that was in my room just watching me give birth?
Oh, Lord.
Worst moment of my life, because I was like, oh, he's really cute, and he's just watching ugly old vagina, boy. You know. I just felt bad for him. He seemed very into it, like he was very excited by birth, but I was like, I don't like this.
I didn't check that box. Yeah. I was not a servant to the students. I said, do you want students to come watch you? I said,
I wasn't even asked because it's a student hospital. So the students come in and watch, but they're there to help, you know, so. Yeah, I think you can ask for them to leave, but at that point I was 2 hours into pushing, so I was like, forget it. Yeah. So anyway, but on top of all of that, we had a doula, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. And, like, doula's there to know what kind of things you need. She was great. She, like, snuck me some yogurt while I was in the hospital already on meds, and she was like, you look hungry. And so she just gave me her yogurt. She was the one who got Ruth out because they're about to give me a C-section after 3.5 hours of pushing, and oh no!
Is it not recording?
My storage is full.
That's okay.
What do we do?
Pause for editing. I'm wondering if there's anything that...
I mean, that's going to be a lot of storage that needs to be deleted. Let me think. Let me see how much I can delete in this little bit of time here.
We could also just take, like, from what we had, just make a couple, like, promo reels from what we had.
Yeah, we could. I'm trying to think. I don't know why my storage is gone. We pay for storage. Let me see how many videos I have.
They're sneaky.
They really are. Yeah, I'm getting a new phone.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, with my medical device and everything, and then the issues iPhone has these days, I'm switching to a Google Pixel.
Oh, I love my Google Pixel.
Did you?
I loved my Google Pixel. We switched to Apple because Keegan started working for Apple, but I loved it. It was great. It ran so smoothly. Things. I had no issues. The only thing is it's way more fragile. So if you drop your phone a lot, definitely see if you can get like some sort of case.
I did get a pillowcase. Okay, I have a lot of videos, so I'm going to delete all of these because these are on Google Photos.
Perfect.
So, fingers crossed that works. Whew, getting sweaty. What were we talking about, Piper? Okay, let's see.
Do we need to clap one more time?
We will. All right, 3, 2, 1. Sweet. All right, sorry.
We're back.
I'm one of those people who takes thousands of photos of my kids, so
I do too.
Lost storage. We'll see how it goes. If not, we'll just show a beautiful photo of our faces. Or I guess we could switch your camera into landscape mode.
Yeah, we could do that if we need to.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
should be good.
All right.
What were we talking about before this?
I had a doula.
Yes, and she ended up pulling.
And she ended up getting Ruth out because I was 3.5 hours into pushing, and they were like, "We've given you as much time as we could to get her out." She was stuck under my pelvis because I guess I had a tight pelvis or whatever. And she was like, "Well, let's put her on her left side since she's stuck on her right side," and she came right out. The simplest things.
To do that? That's so.
I know they're a pretty holistic hospital too. So, but I was on an epidural, so I don't know if they were thinking, "Oh, I don't know if she can move." I had full control of my epidural. They just give you a button, and there's a limit.
Wow.
But you can push it as much as you want.
Well, interesting.
The best. I
you loved it. See,
I don't think I will.
Terrible.
No,
reviews.
The best.
Okay, you loved
Norton
it.
was an awful experience for me.
See, I absolutely loved Norton.
I know you did.
Experience there.
Yeah, I know you did.
I think it's just different.
I think for a high risk patient, I would never do Norton. Otherwise, I've heard great things. High risk. I don't know a single person who had a good experience high risk.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that there is a good example that it's like different things are right for different people. It all depends on your circumstance. I think there is safety included in that. So if you are high risk, it may not be the best decision to do a home birth. Because something may go wrong in
and typically you don't have an option. Like you have to do because you need certain medications. For me, I also had preeclampsia, so they were gonna induce Ruth, and then she came a week before my induction date. So, I didn't really have an option just because. I got eclampsia because they didn't even treat me properly, and I got the seizures. With that, you just don't always have an option, which I think why it's really important to be careful about how you talk about your own birth, especially when you're a natural birth mama, which, again, it's amazing. Like, that's such a gift to have that mental and physical strength to be like, yeah, I'm going to do this at home, and I'm just going to trust my body, trust in God, like... this is how we've done it for forever. Right. And so our bodies are meant to handle this. But in this day and age, and just because of the sinful life that we live, like...
I was going to say, in life, like, women have died in childbirth for hundreds and, since the beginning of time. And it's probably for women who had different medical conditions that weren't researched or known about yet. And so there's some people who don't have the option of doing a home birth because it would not be safe.
Yeah. So I think you have to be careful about how you talk about it, because a woman can hear that and be like, oh, I'm lesser than as a woman because I have to do a hospital birth, which is just as hard in its own way. Like, it's not fun having doctors surrounding you and being plugged with a million IVs while you're trying to push a baby out either. Like, there are really great, like, wow, I lost the word again. There are pluses to being in the hospital because you do have your epidural or other things that you need, but it also presents its own challenges. It's just as hard, and you're just as worthy for giving birth in the hospital. Just like, I know a lot of women don't always feel like a woman because they struggle with fertility, and that's their own journey that they're going on. And I'm sure even just hearing people having their hospital births, it's like, oh, well, you still got to give birth. You still got to have a baby. And I'm still trying to get pregnant. And so I really do think we have to be super careful when we share our stories and how we're talking about that experience. It just needs to come from a place of humility, I think.
I agree. I think at the same time, like on the opposite spectrum of that, just to play all sorts of...
Sorry, your mic I don't think is working. Are you plugged in?
Is it on?
It's on. Are you plugged in?
I am plugged in.
Tap on it. Okay, just making sure.
Okay.
You're good.
So are we good? Am I just not being really loud?
It went quiet, so.
Here, how's that?
That's good.
I can hear you. Okay. I think on the opposite spectrum of that, as well, we live in a day and age where birth and children and all of that can largely be seen as inconvenient. It's something that's not special or sacred anymore. And so, I also just encounter people who are like, oh, which is fine. Like, that's their own opinion and that's totally cool. But, oh, I don't care. Like, give me the drugs. Like, I just get it out, that sort of thing. And while everybody may not be passionate about birth, absolutely, I'm sure that can make some people feel silly. Like, should I care about birth this much then? Like, maybe I'm being silly. Maybe I'm making a big deal. Like, and I need to stop. No one really cares. Like, but some people are really passionate about it. And I do think it's a special, sacred thing to be able to give birth and something to be grateful for. And so it's okay to be excited about it and want to do research and want to, enjoy the experience as much as you can. Because, being able to get pregnant and have babies is a gift from God. And so... who knows when it'll come again, you know what I mean?
Right.
But, yeah, I think... And some people have access to different options that other people don't have. So, like, regardless of safety, where you live, like, you may not have access, to do a hospital or a home birth, or depending on how much money you make, home births are expensive.
Yes, and insurance does not cover it.
No, not even a tiny bit. That's fully out of pocket. And... I mean, hospital births are expensive too, though, you know, and some healthcare providers, may not cover it as much as other people. It's an expensive thing. And so those things need to, I feel like, be taken into account when you're discussing and talking about it. And I think people do seem to tiptoe around the conversation and want to be gentle, but at the same time, I feel like people are very opinionated and come across very intensely on both ends of the spectrum. Another thing to consider is, like, what sort of support system do you have? I think, when it comes to someone might not be able to have a home birth because they don't have anybody to help them there. When they give birth, they may not have this whole team of people and that are going to surround them and support them and be with them. They may need to be in the hospital where there's a doctor and there are nurses, and I hope they're good ones. But my hospital birth was great. I had an amazing nurse, or two, and specifically my main nurse, I hope she finds this podcast, her name was Lainey, and she was an incredible woman. She was with me the whole birth.
My main nurse was awesome too. I used to follow her on Instagram. Her name was Chelsea. She was the best.
Oh, I love
I would hire her to be my doula one day.
Oh, 100%.
She was awesome.
Same. She was out here. She was like rubbing my shoulders and holding my hands when I got my epidural and just being like, "You're so strong, Mama. Yep. You've got this, Mama." Putting essential oils on cotton balls around my
awesome.
Around my little bed so I wouldn't get sick. Like, she would shift me with my epidural and she would rub my legs. She'd dim the lights and like make it peaceful, talk quietly. Like, it was just, she was so great. I really loved her.
Mine was holding my hand the whole time and just being like, "You're safe, you're pushing the baby safe." And she was letting me know, she was like, her heart rate's still looking great even after pushing this on. Like, just kept me updated the whole time. She had the most soothing voice. Like,
that's just the best.
Yeah, that really is. And I think I would encourage too. I know some people want to do a home birth because they hear people's horror stories in the hospital.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I heard that all the time after I decided to do a hospital birth.
People are so bad.
All right,
you say you're going to Norton, and then it's like, "Oh, I've had the worst. Don't go there." And you can share your...
All right, I was going to say, y'all, with love, shut your pie hole when a woman is pregnant about your birth experience.
Or anything negative.
If it's horrible.
Yeah.
They don't need to hear that. They don't need to hear your horrible story about how you almost died. Like, and I've had conversations with the women in my life who said those things to me, so I feel comfortable sharing this. I was like, "Hey, with love, please don't share that with me right now." So they know, but y'all...
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, even...
This woman's terrified. I was so scared. I'd never given birth before. I was so scared to give birth.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing all these horror stories and all of these terrible things, and I was so scared and discouraged. And the only podcasts I was listening to were about the evils of doctors and hospitals and how home birth's the only way. And I was terrified that I was making the wrong decision. And I kept getting articles sent to me and different things, just people trying to be loving, but just... giving all advice.
Oversharing.
I'm trying to make the right decision for me. I promise I've put thought into this.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just they think you don't, because it's your first time, it's like, "Oh, you don't know anything about this hospital, so let me tell you what I went through." But, like, seriously, like, even me, like, obviously you and I had two very different experiences at our hospital, and I had to catch myself sometimes when I was sharing my horror story, and I was like... But mine's different. Like, that doesn't, we're going to pray and absolutely trust that Piper has a different story. Because we also knew you had the good OBGYN that we both love. And I have heard great things, like when it's not a high-risk experience. Whereas my only bad experience, I loved the nurses and the OBGYN. It was literally just the high-risk doctors were a nightmare. Like, truly traumatized me.
That's terrible.
It was awful. But... I felt so much better once I read the reviews that almost everyone's had a horrible experience there. And so we switched hospitals at last minute. But, like, that's not the time to share your story. Like, if you've gone through that trauma, share it. Like, you need to get those things out. But when someone tells you they're pregnant or tells you their experience at this doctor, don't just, like, go in the opposite direction and be like, "Oh, here's my terrible story with this doctor." Like, that's just not encouraging. It's going to freak them out. Your body's going through enough stress when you're pregnant.
I literally had to apologize to a friend the other day because in my defense, she asked me my birth story, but I didn't share, or I didn't edit out any gruesome details or intensity or how scary it was, like all the things. And she literally left. I was like, "She's pregnant. She just was pregnant." So I had to text her and apologize and be like, "I'm so sorry. I was a dum-dum and didn't think, and I should not have talked about that in front of you. Your birth is going to be great." And she didn't care. She's like, "Girl, I don't care. Like, you're fine." But still, I had to catch myself because I do think there's a camaraderie and a sisterhood to being pregnant and wanting to share experiences with people. And home birth was looked down upon for so long and shamed, and it still is in a lot of ways, that I'm sure there's a camaraderie there as something about how special it is and how rare it is and how, I think, and we won't stay too long on this, but another thing that I talked about with a friend is birth is a gift, and giving birth is a gift. I think it's beautiful. But it was not meant to be this woman goddess, hear me roar, earth mother thing,
I am powerful.
In my opinion. Yeah. It's not about you. It's literally God's curse. That childbirth, it literally says, like, she will groan in Genesis. But it's not meant to be about you. And I think we've turned something that's so beautiful and a gift from God, and something that we should celebrate, that the Lord has made women strong. That's not what I'm saying. I think that's incredible. And I think we should celebrate and be grateful for that. But I think it's a selfless experience. It's something that you're going through this tremendous amount of pain and intensity to bring your life into the world. It's your first selfless act as a mother.
Yeah. And
I think we've turned it in some ways through natural, crunchy, and hospital. Everybody does it, into this selfish, look at me and how incredible I am, and let me worship myself for this thing that I'm doing.
Or even some of the people who talk really poorly of their experience, it's like, you're thinking a little bit too much about yourself. Like, if you've had a traumatic experience, I get it. I've been there. Yeah. But there are certain things where it's like, I don't know. I've even read people being like, they just gave me Pitocin without asking. I'm like, okay. Well. You were told you were going to be on Pitocin, so just ask them to let you know next time if you realize that they made that mistake. Like,
not everything is trauma.
No, it's not.
The word trauma is so overused. Not everything is trauma.
Yeah, we're going to get into a really good episode coming up where we have a therapist coming on, and we're going to get into a little bit of like everything is over traumatized and we're a little bit over therapized, and that's going to be really good. But
it's going to be great.
I think sometimes either we think a little bit too much about ourselves, or we feel the need to always defend our choices for ourselves and our bodies. I think
there's a weird defensive energy around birth in women.
Yeah. It's almost like, how do I word it? It's almost like animals, like when they feel like they need to like defend their territory.
There is something primal in it,
It's just like, I'm defending my choices. My choices are right for me. Like, don't come and question me. And
mama bear,
yeah, the mama bear. And so I think sometimes we overdo it too, so people know like, ooh, I'm not coming near you with any questions, or like stating my opinion in this because you know what you're doing, you know. But and then we really do, I think we do that in a lot of ways, of just think of ourselves too much, and instead of looking at, oh, God gave me this gift of this child, and he's given me the gift of being able to safely bring them into the world, or even sometimes not safely, but they're here in my arms, you know, instead of focusing on that, it's like, oh, I'm so powerful, and I carried this baby for 9 months and pushed him out, and it was such a intense experience, and just making it all about us. Like, for me, I felt all of that, but just in a more spiritual way, of just like, I was so close with the Lord in that time, just in those whole 8 months of carrying Ruth, and so the actual birth experience, I'm sure if I like was actually in that moment, I would remember all the pain and like how uncomfortable I was. But, like, looking back on it, I just remember how much, like, I felt God's presence there. And just, like, your baby's going to be fine. And you're going to be fine. It's going to be a beautiful experience to grow me closer to you. And, I think we look at ourselves a lot, and we use it to empower ourselves.
See, looking back at my birth experience, kind of what I have reflecting on it is, like, that's beautiful. I think that that's amazing, that that's what you have looking back on it. I don't necessarily have that. Not in a bad way, but... For me, my birth was really rough. My labor was unbelievably long. I was in labor for 64 hours. I pushed for 3, over 3. And at the end of it, I did not feel woman empowered. I did not feel, oh, Holy Spirit, filled this place. I was exhausted. I was miserable. I was sobbing. I was in so much pain. I am positive they turned down my epidural now, because I was in so much pain when I was pushing there at the end.
Either that or your epidural wasn't in properly.
I was miserable. It was the worst. Pushing was like the worst experience of my life. But anyway, I finally, the memory that I will choose to cherish from that is when my son finally came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's here. And I couldn't believe it. I was so delirious. I hadn't slept in 5 days. I was just in and out of it, but he was on my chest and I was done. That's the feeling I felt, was I'm done. That's not something I ever want to go through again. I do want more kids, but I never want to do that again. I'm sure I'll feel you again somehow, Lord, but right now I'm just tired. I want to go to bed. I'm happy my son's here. I want a burger. That's what I felt.
Which is funny, because I feel like our birth experiences, like the labor part, was actually very similar. But again, like, we took it differently, I mean, I'm sure if your epidural didn't probably work, that'd be miserable. Because I was like shaking and crying right before they put the epidural in. Like, I was in so much pain.
My epidural worked great for the rest of my labor. For the rest of my labor,
so they turned it down.
I'm positive they did, because sometimes, when I was pushing it, I was miserable. I was in so much pain.
Sometimes they do that so you can get out and go to the bathroom right after you give birth.
Yeah.
Whereas me,
I was still numb though. I was still numb all over. Like, I couldn't. My legs. I couldn't wild. Like pick them up for a while. I had to have help, like, to the bathroom and back. Mm-hmm. Which, bless these nurses, they send in these 2 tiny little pixies to take me to the bathroom. I had one. You cannot lift me.
Sweet Chelsea just carried me all the way.
5'0", 2 of them. They were little twigs. They were so sweet. But I said, you
cannot.
We're the big nurses.
Where's my men?
We're the hefty women.
Bring the men.
Help. I need help.
Yeah, but we both had several days of labor. I started contracting at your apartment and was miserable and crying, and we were going through Steven's grandmother dying, so the day before that we were at her house until 3 a.m. just saying goodbye, and so I was in labor for a few days, and we roughly pushed for the same. I was 3 hours and 20 minutes.
It was like 3 hours 15 minutes or something like that for me. Yeah,
which was that part was miserable. They just kept telling me the time, and I was like, "Why are you telling me how long it's been?"
They did not tell me the time for me. They just told me when they were like, "Okay, we need a break." That's all they said. We need a break. I didn't want to take a break. I was bad at that. Yeah, I did pass out at one point because I was.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was in so much pain and I was so exhausted. I passed out.
Oh my gosh.
It was rough. It was only for like a minute or 2, and then I quickly woke back up. But,
oh my goodness. Yeah.
That was just something else. But all that to say, births are going to be different for different people depending on what kind of support system you have and what kind of care you have access to.
Well, and I think with that, like, everything's going to work for you differently than it does someone else. Like, we both had hospital births, and you had a very different story than me. Someone's going to have a home birth and hate it, and then another person's going to be like, this is all I'm going to do with every child. Or some are going to have a home birth, and the next one's going to be a high-risk baby. I think we have a couple women in the church who have dealt with that. And, the story is different for everyone, but I think all stories are absolutely valid. So don't diminish yourself just because you have a friend who is really great at doing home births with no medication, and you're like all the drugs and wanting all hands on deck. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think whatever brings your baby into the world safest is the way to go.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting a home birth and wanting or a birth center or something like that. There's nothing wrong with that either.
C-section, like, that's also a choice, and that's totally valid too.
Yeah, I think, it doesn't mean that you're not keeping your baby safe or you're not making a wise decision to, have a home birth. It doesn't mean that you're caring too much. It means that, this is the right choice for you and the right decision for you and your family. I think that's great. Kind of moving into our other commentary in tandem with that, breast is best. Breastfeeding. Phew boy.
That sentence is so triggering for me.
It's triggering for me too, because I know so many people now who have had such rough breastfeeding experiences, me included. I'm still breastfeeding.
You're rocking it.
It's been miserable. Yeah, it's been really hard. I've had really sweet moments and really stretches and times of he's doing great and he's really eating well and we're having sweet bonding time and all of that. But oh boy, it has been rough. He really does sometimes just will not nurse and just screams and arches and kicks and throws around and won't do it. And I'm crying, I'm screaming at him, I'm like screaming at the sky because I don't know what to do, and I have to go defrost another bottle because I'm in tears and I can't do it anymore. And then he has a great feed, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're gonna keep doing it. And then he has a terrible feed. So breast is best, definitely. Like, I do personally, I'm in the middle of it, so I do feel this tremendous weight of I don't know what to do, to be honest, of I want to keep breastfeeding. I really do. I would love, one, convenience, to be frank. It's a lot easier when you just pull out the boob. But also, I know that breast milk is really great for babies, and there are a lot of good nutrients in it. Formula is really expensive, but pumping is exhausting and takes a lot of effort, and you have to be near an outlet every 3-4 hours. But oh my goodness. It is we'll get into that later, but breastfeeding's hard.
It's a hard
and I did
journey.
not think it was going to be my story. I really didn't. I really thought it was going to not be hard.
Yeah.
I really thought we were going to be fine and figure it out. And it has been really hard.
Yeah. I know for me, like, I was chronically ill when I had my daughter, so breastfeeding was hard in general, but I also knew nothing. I was not humble, and I did not see a lactation consultant, like, did not talk to anyone. I was also 20, so I was just kind of like...
what you're doing? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm 25 almost.
Well, and, like, at 20, you're still, like, you kind of feel like a baby still, and so for me, it was just very strange to have a baby on my nipple.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I loved holding her and having that close time, like you said, but breastfeeding itself, I was just like not a fan. Do not like this.
Yeah, I love it so much.
Whereas now
Honey has a good feed.
I think if I had a baby now, I'd be like, oh, we're doing breastfeeding as long as we can. But at that time, it was just...
I will be there. I'll hold that baby on the nip. We'll do it together. It's going to be great.
Just be holding that.
And
like,
if
you
it's
can
not,
do it.
It's okay. Yes.
And I was sick too. So, like, having her on me all the time just was miserable. And... I felt a lot of shame with that, though. It's why I didn't talk to anyone, because I was like, oh, I'm going to be judged for saying I hate breastfeeding, and it's so hard. And she had mouth ties, all 5. And so, bless her. She could not, like, her lips were just always pursed. She could not figure it out. Even when we started doing the, like, tongue tie stretches and then removed a couple, like, she just could not do it.
Couldn't get it, yeah.
And so I pumped every 2 hours, and that was miserable, but I did it because I was like, she needs breast milk. Like, I was really intense about that because I was like, we can't do formula. It's so bad for them. Like, breast milk is what she needs. She was 10 times healthier when we started doing breast milk.
When you started doing breast milk?
When we started doing formula. Like, she was 10 times healthier when we started doing formula. She was gaining the weight she needed to gain. I was getting rest. I was less stressed. And it wasn't my choice to do formula. 3 months in, I was so sick, and we had a couple pregnancy scares already, and I was falling apart, like, full on, like, screaming, like, meltdowns, just, like, could not handle it. And so Steven and I were in a really bad spot too, and I was like, I need to feel safe, like, not getting pregnant right now with how sick I am. So I did the stupid move, and I did birth control for a little bit, and it completely dried me out. And I felt a lot of shame with that too. It was like I couldn't balance out, like, taking care of my health and then also taking care of my daughter's health. And so I felt a lot of shame with stopping breastfeeding. But looking back, like, we did a really good formula. It was dairy free. She has a huge dairy allergy like I do. So we did, like, a European country, like, formula, and she did great. She gained weight. She was happy. She was getting all the food she needed. And that took the load off. Like, even sometimes thinking about it now, I wish I could have breastfed more, but also looking back, it was like, well, she was happy and healthy, and I was happy and healthy. And sometimes you need to weigh that out of, like, will this help my child be taken care of? And is this better for my health and my needs and my need for sleep and all of that? And the way I like to look at it financially too is the money you're spending on formula is the money you'd be spending on food to take care of yourself, to breastfeed your baby.
That's super true.
And it was so hard for me to feed myself the way I needed to. I think that was another reason my milk dried out so quickly is I wasn't eating at all.
Oh my word.
That's exhausting.
Breastfeeding is a full-time job. It's a full-time job.
And especially once your husband goes back to work and he's not feeding you, you're not getting the meal trains anymore. It's
you
like...
You literally don't have time to make yourself food. Especially for, like, okay, so I work outside the home as well. And so I have work to do. And, like, I do not have time to make myself all of this food. I don't know how I'm keeping a milk supply up right now because I'm trying to just stuff my face as much as I can.
I was going to say, you've been doing good with the simple stuff, like even chicken and avocado. And
I just literally get, like, 4 containers of rotisserie chicken.
It's protein.
And, like, put guacamole in it and eat it.
We did meal boxes. That helped us a ton.
I think that's what I'm going to start doing.
You should. It's really helpful. But
I just don't have time.
Yeah. It's 15 minutes to make the meal, which is great. But I get that. It's hard. So yeah, I think I get the breast is best sentence but I think it can be really...
Objectively, it is.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that formula is bad.
Right.
Breast
especially if you buy good formula. Mm-hmm. Like, mine had exactly everything she would get from breast milk. Mm-hmm. She's a very healthy baby. Mm-hmm. Except for when we started going to church again, she barely gets sick. She got COVID at 3 months old and was healthy as a horse. Mm-hmm. While Steven and I were dying. Like, she's the healthiest kid I know. And that's through formula. So, mm-hmm. like, I think, too, just be careful saying that, because if you're not informed on the mother's situation, it's just a dangerous thing to say. Yeah. Because just like, you know, saying, oh, you should only do hospital birth, or oh, you should only do home birth, it can be a little demeaning and make people feel bad for the choices they're making for their baby as well. And so you really need to be careful with that. Because ultimately, I think, you know, you have to talk about the mental health impact as well of breastfeeding. Mm-hmm. And just, even though, like, you may have gone through this if you are a mom or whatever, your experience is always different. I think that could be the second episode, like, title is, your story might be different. My phone's on 1%, just FYI. Oh, okay. We can wrap it up quickly. But yeah, or we can just cut the video here if we need to. Oh, darn it! It died? Yes. Oh, the issue is it probably didn't save your video. Oh, my charger's right there too. You should have said something. We're still figuring it out, guys. We're still figuring it out. Maybe it's saved. Oh, I hope so. I just know my experience with... That would be great. Here, I'm going to do mine. Tell me you do podcasting all by yourself without saying you do podcasting all by yourself. Literally. But yeah, I think as well, another thing that we can't discount is the mental health impact, because, you know, you have to remember that you are not living through whatever experiences that the woman is living through. Mm-hmm. When we say that every woman's experience is different, that really means that every woman's experience is different. And oh gosh, it's hard for me to say, because I do think that advice is a thing. Like, it's good to give advice. It's good to, you know, share opinion, share experience, to try to share wisdom. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, what a woman is going through is her own experience, and you can't disregard that. You can't disregard that, and you can't say that you know best, mm-hmm. ultimately, because mm-hmm. you're not the one living through whatever this woman is living through. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I've definitely felt that in some ways, not intentional at all, but by anybody, but just, you know. And it partially, it's big on me. Like, I compare myself to other women who I see breastfeeding and are doing it well, and it's flawless, and they literally can just pull up their shirt, pop out a boob, and it's just great and simple, and they get a full feed. I'm like, I have to go into a separate room and, like, wrestle my kid and try to keep myself from screaming because I'm so exhausted and overwhelmed. And you have to remember that for you, you're seeing this one feed. Mm-hmm. That's all you're seeing. Yeah. This woman is doing this like 12 times a day, every single day for multiple months. Through the night. That's like her whole life is feeding this baby. Mm-hmm. I think you'd also be losing it a little bit if you were dealing with this so many times a day, mm-hmm. so many days in a row for so many months. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, for me, I still haven't decided. I'm still in the limbo phase of he's still young. He's not 4 months yet. He's still figuring it out. Yeah. Well, and it's your first baby, too. It's my first baby, so... Like, I literally cried to you and Morgan the other day about it. How I'm like, I really want to stop, but I don't feel like I can because I literally don't have time to pump. And, like, I don't want to use formula, but we also don't have the money for formula and all of these things. And in getting enough milk, it's just a fight. And so it's just,
there's so many factors to it, and so I think saying breast is best, or saying it's just so good for them, or it's not helpful. It just hurts. It hurts when the experience is not what you want it to be. You know, it just makes you feel like you're failing and that you need to push through for the good of your baby, where it's like, I don't feel like...
No matter how much it's killing you.
Or, because you do have to take care of yourself too, or you can't take care of your baby.
Yeah.
You know, your child. It's just unbelievably hard.
Yeah, it really is.
And all that being said, I think supportive conversations are just really important for this whole conversation regarding birth, regarding breastfeeding. We didn't even get into postpartum, but we'll get into that at some point.
Yeah.
We'll probably have Morgan on again for that episode. But I think presenting wisdom if you're asked, presenting opinions if you're asked is great. But just holding a non-judgmental space where, when we say non-judgmental, you really just need to listen and say, I support you, I hear you, I'm here for whatever you decide to do, whatever you need.
I feel like, especially in our generation, we feel like we have to always come at someone with wisdom. And I think sometimes wisdom is just keeping your mouth shut and listening to someone and loving them where they're at.
Absolutely.
Unless wisdom is asked for, or even like you and I, we sometimes haven't asked for wisdom, but we've just felt the Lord speak to us like, hey, I have this little nugget for you. But I definitely think just listening is always the best way to go unless you're asked.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important. I think everybody's choices are different, and everybody's story looks different. I think holding space for people to share their stories is really important. And following that thread, I think we're going to try to link some resources for different lactation consultants, midwives, OBGYNs, pregnancy centers that we would recommend if you're listening to this and you would like resources or help. You're also free to DM us if you want. We
Seriously.
don't know. We obviously have been listening. We do not know everything, and we barely know anything, but we have walked through some things. So
we've walked through some things. I think we're researchers, so we know a lot. So especially if you live in Kentucky, I think we can suggest some people or lactation consultants that we've loved. Because I think too, when breastfeeding, sometimes women do give up a little too quickly because they don't know what they're doing, and or it's their first baby, or they have a baby who has a health issue that they don't know. And so sometimes you give up just because you're uninformed. That's what happened to me. And so don't be afraid to ask people for help, because that's literally what lactation consultants and doulas and doctors are there for. If you have someone who makes you feel judged, then maybe find a new person. Because I bet you anything, the question that you have is not something worth being judged, especially when you're seeking help because you're trying to do the best thing for your baby. So yeah, we'll link some people if you are looking for help, or just websites with resources to find someone where you're at. I definitely suggest doing that before making the decision to just pump or even go on formula. Obviously, we support that. My daughter's a formula baby, but just know your stuff and be well informed before you make a decision. I think that's great. Big advice.
Just basing it off of people's opinions or what they think you should do is not the way to go. I think those are good things to weigh, but I think you do need to do the research for yourself. And I'm very guilty of that. I weigh my decisions based on a lot of people I trust opinions way too much, and I sometimes struggle of making a stand of, no, I've done the research and this is what I want to do, because I struggle with weighing people's opinions too much. And so there's part of me that wonders if, it would be healthier for me to strictly pump, from this point on, or only breastfeed a couple times a day, pump for the rest, if that would be better for my mental health. Because on the flip end of what you said, I think sometimes women can try to breastfeed too long, and they're just like a shell of a human because they've been told breast is best and you have to do it for your baby.
The life has been sucked out of them,
and they have nothing to give. And then they stop breastfeeding, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel alive, I feel like I can connect with my baby, I feel like I can breathe again. I think it's different for everybody. And the same goes for birth, obviously, natural birth versus medicated birth. I think I don't think it's not something that everyone may not be passionate about it, but I do think you need to do research. I do think you need to weigh several different options and come to the best conclusion for you and your family. I don't think it's I don't think it's a conversation or a decision to be made lightly or flippantly. I think,
Yeah. Well, if you're having a baby, you want the safest option for you and the baby. And so you want to be well informed and know everything. Obviously not overwhelm yourself with information, but just know as much as you can to know what the best option is for you. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, we'll link some things in the show notes, and I think that's all we got. Yeah.
If this video comes out, thanks for your patience with us. I'm sure it's a hodgepodge.
It's a mess.
But if we did not post the video, thank you for listening to us talk about the video that you don't get to see.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been, I
think it's been, we're both moms, and you work, I work now. And we're just busy all the time. And I think when we actually sit down to podcast, it can get chaotic. And I haven't done video in so long. It's hard to keep up with it and figure it out sometimes. So.
Yeah, and my brain is, I have a full-time job, and so my brain is on work 50% of the day. Yeah. And then, it's at work 100% of the day, but then the other 100% of my brain, because I have to be at 200% now, is with my baby. So it's just wild. It's wild. Working a full-time job is insane.
Yeah. So thanks for your patience with us and your support, even through us figuring it all out. But
we appreciate it.
Yeah. So you can typically watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Get ready for some episodes. We will do the pro-life and pro-choice episode. And then we will have a therapist on soon, which is super exciting.
Definitely hit us up. We love hearing what you want to hear us talk about. Yes. So definitely hit us up with some, hey, here's a controversial topic. I really want to hear what you all have to say. And we will comment on it and do an episode.
Yes. Yeah. It's a lot of work to come up with topics. So when people suggest it, we typically go for it. I think we're also going to do a suggested topic of conspiracies on Taylor Swift.
We might be doing that.
Maybe that's the next one. That way we can do a fun, lighthearted one before we dig into abortion and therapy.
Yeah. Those will be good ones. Or we'll bookend it with that.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks for listening and watching.
Until next time,
I'm Grace.
This is the Unveiling Podcast.
See ya.